Hence the name, The Tragedy of King Lear. This play is filled with sadness, distress, and catastrophe. You would never expect to hear jokes or see any humor in a play with so much death and madness, yet Shakespeare utilizes this prior thought that all humans hold to immerse the viewers in certain scenes that are particularly tragic. Most people do not typically use or even see comedy when tragic events are happening in their life, but Shakespeare takes his absurd sense of humor and marries it with the horrendous atrocities taking place in the play.
When shall I come? It's awful that so little.
Oh, you climb up it now. Look how we labor.
Methinks the goodness. Even.
No. It's horribly steep. Horribly steep.
Edgar so lives. Bless him.
Although the scene is understood to be horrendous because Gloucester is attempting to kill himself, it's funny for its own reasons. Gloucester, for one, genuinely thinks he's going to die, hence the explosion, but he does not. He is truly intending to end his life, but falls for Edgar's cruel trick. Suddenly, this moment of desperation becomes a scene of hilarity. Part of what makes this scene sad at first, but upon further inspection is actually quite funny, is the fact that his son Edgar is right there with him, helping him attempt suicide, and Gloucester has no idea. His last words were almost, "If Edgar so lives, bless him," as Edgar is secretly tricking him for his own amusement. Some other scenes are not quite as suspenseful, yet they still use comedy to give the player a more realistic feel. Humans are not purely tragic beings, and they will always seek to find comedy in the darkest of corners.
Arraign her first. 'Tis Goneril. I here take my oath before this honorable assembly. She kicked the poor king and father.
Oh, come hither. Is your name Goneril?
She cannot deny it.
Oh, cry you mercy. I mistook you for a joint stool.
The stool scene emphasizes the king's insanity, while also effectively using the fool's quirky character as balance. The scene is supposed to give the audience an idea of how Lear feels forsaken by Goneril and is truly going mad, but when the fool cracks a joke such as he did, it causes the pitiful act of a senile old man yelling at a stool to appear more lighthearted. In King Lear, the fool as a character is truly the embodiment of absurd humor. He always makes his entrances at the most unexpected times, and the one-liners he tells often make for good transitions from dark settings to lighter ones, and vice versa. A good example of this is when the fool is sitting out in the rain alone on stage, about to make a great speech, but before starting the speech he makes a joke about hiring a prostitute.
"'Tis a brave night, cooler courtesan. I'll speak a prophecy ere I go."
That was some great line delivery past me. Anyway, comedy will always be found in life, and is never truly absent, even in the most tragic of situations. Even if it is not always appealing to the people dealing with the tragedy, outsiders can still watch and laugh at the sad scenarios that people might find themselves in.
Help! Help! Murderer! Help! 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 Help!
Alma, what's the matter?
Hey, what's going on?
This ancient ruffian whose life I spared a suit of his gray beard.
That whoreson Zek, unnecessary ledger, he's a liar.
Oswald is indeed a liar, as well as a sad little man who can do nothing for himself. He always plays the victim, and eventually gets what he deserves, but that's for a later conversation. In this scene, Oswald attempts to play the hero and the victim simultaneously, and those in the audience can look at him and laugh at him for his display of cowardice, much like in real life, when people laugh at those who do not deserve praise or honor. In Act 3, Scene 4, Lear and company stumble upon the now homeless Edgar.
Wouldst thou save nothing? Hadst thou given them all?
Nay, he reserved a blanket, else we all be shamed.
Android quality, am I right? Anyway, this could be funny for a few reasons. The fool tries to say that Edgar has not lost everything, and that he still has a blanket, which in itself is certainly something you could laugh at. But when you look from the outside, and see that Edgar has actually lost everything that mattered to him, then it becomes peak dark comedy. Again, this is a situation in which the characters themselves would not find it funny, but the audience members can get a good chuckle if they're a little sadistic. Comedy is to be found everywhere in life if you're willing to look hard enough, and the tragedy of King Lear shows this fact. Laughter accentuates the hardships that the cast of the play are going through, and without it the play would not have the emotion to keep the audience waiting to see the inevitable, disastrous outcome.